Hey, my name is Matiss. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Green Finance, and this is what I do.
Hey, yo, what's up, guys? What's happening? I'm chilling out here right behind the Vatican. What the fuck am I doing here? I have no idea. Me and my wife wanted to come out for a weekend in Rome because we've never seen this place, and I will never come here again because it's dirty and worn down and it's shit. But anyway, it was interesting to have a look. And let me go to the topic of what I wanted to talk about, which is people again. You know, people. So this time I'm going to talk about some of my experience about interviewing people and hiring them, and kind of what questions are the best ones or good ones to use in an interview process. But before I give you some examples of what has worked for me and for our company Green Finance, let me just tell you, take a few steps back. So number one, don't try to copy any other company's interviewing process and their questions, because it's fucking stupid, you know? Don't try to be like asking questions that Amazon or Google or some other companies are asking interview questions. The only thing that you will, get into with doing this kind of thing is just, being weird and stupid. That's one. Second, people don't realize that if you're a small company or medium business or, not like a huge corporation or Facebook or Goldman Sachs of this world, then really you're not going to be able to choose from thousands and thousands of applicants, right? It's not reality. Reality is oftentimes that you have to choose from the, bunch of fairly limited and shitty candidates. You have to choose the least shitty one, right? That's sometimes the reality. And of course you want to grow as big as possible, as quickly, to kind of be in a position where you can really attract top talent, but it doesn't happen from the beginning. And what else? I mean, that's kind of the main context for interviews. And for me, what has worked very well is basically creating my own journal of questions over years as I've been doing interviews, and this journal of questions comes from experience, seeing which kind of questions really work in interviews, asking maybe some other people what questions they ask, getting from online or from other sources interesting questions, and kind of adapting them to my own style. But the whole point is that over time you develop your own style and process and a list of or a journal of questions that you use, and it's a live document. You just keep on updating it. Now let me get into a few questions that I think are quite cool, very generic, so it doesn't matter what level of person you're looking for, or if you're looking for a manager or specialist or for an executive or for a data input intern. This is something you can ask. Number one is, tell me about your childhood. Why is this question relevant? Well, first of all, if you know anything about psychology, and I suggest you learn if you want to hire people and be a leader, then what you will figure out is that if a person reveals something about their childhood, their earliest memory, I think I just walked all the way down the square, so let me just walk right back, is that it reveals a lot. It reveals the triggers, the pain points, the reasons why people do certain things and might not even be aware of them themselves. So that's one. And second, it's also quite a strong icebreaker. People don't normally expect to go into an interview and talk about their childhood. So that's something that can give them sort of a kicker, and you can see how they deal with these sort of non-standard questions and situations. Number two is ask about what's the biggest punch in the face in their lives. Yeah. And this is interesting because obviously it gives you a chance to see how people deal with the toughest challenges, or what they think are the toughest challenges in their lives. And you can see, how tough and how big have the problems and the situations in one's life been. And if somebody tells me as an answer that the toughest thing that they've dealt is organizing a fucking tour to Australia for a bunch of their buddies after fucking high school, then I would punch them right in the face and out of my office. You know what I'm saying? It's because I want people that have dealt with something a bit more, realistic in life. Anyway, that's number two or three, I don't remember. Then what else is cool? Ask a question about where do you want to be, or where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Let's say in 3 years. Why that question is good? It's very generic, but if you use it correctly, you can get a lot of information. Number one is you can see if the person is ambitious and how ambitious the person is. And to me, ambition actually is one of the key determining factors for how successful, for how likely the person is gonna persevere and continue kind of climbing, crawling and running towards their goals in life. Yeah? So that might be very useful. And it can reveal if a person has any sort of sense of vision and certainty about where they want to be in the future in the first place. And you want to be surrounded with people in your team that know where the fuck they want to go, right? What else? And then there's a bunch of other questions. I mean, this is just like from hundreds of questions you can ask. These are just a few. And then, of course, asking these generic questions do not replace the need for asking questions specifically around the role that you're hiring, right? If you're hiring a financial controller, if you're hiring a manager of a call center or any other position, of course you need to ask relevant business-specific questions that reveal that person's abilities to deal with, with that environment or that position that you're looking to hire. So, and use specific examples, use experiences recently from your own business to see how well adapted, how capable, how skillful the person is to deal with that specific job position. I'm not advocating the idea of asking some cool, funky general questions and just off the back of that hiring top talent. It doesn't happen like that. But anyway, this was a short, brief tour into like 1% of what makes up a good interviewing process. I can't obviously give you more in these few minutes that you give to me of your attention. But anyway, thanks for watching, subscribe, and you will see me more walking around in sunglasses, sweating, obviously, because it's like plus 35 degrees from all these random locations in the world. Yeah, where the fuck do I get out of this place? Bye, see you later.